right, welcome back to Business Today. Our conversation today touches on this business barometer for Q3 business barometer, and I'm joined by Kiplimo Kigan, Head of Policy Research and Advocacy at KNCCI. Thank you for making time, Kiplimo.
Thank you, Noah.
Going through this particular report, it was quite interesting to observe the level of optimism exuded in this report in regards to how Q3 looks like. Paint for us a picture overally. What is the report all about, and why is it significant, for starters?
Thank you, Noah. Always a pleasure coming to Business Today. Today we are launching the Q3 Business Barometer Report, as you've rightly put it. And this is the second issuance of the Barometer Report. The first one was the one for Q2, which we launched in April. And the Barometer essentially measures the expectations of businesses in the coming quarter. The expectations on a number of things in terms of revenue, in terms of staff size, in terms of the challenges that they expect to affect their performance, and we'll be obviously speaking about that. We're also measuring the cost of primary inputs, essentially the raw materials. So, and that gauges the cost of production in the country. We've also gotten a lot of feedback based on our Q2 report, and we've incorporated a good number of them. This time, we're able to engage more than 1,000 businesses. We got responses from more than 1,000 businesses. And as you've said, top of mind, majority of the businesses are actually expecting to grow their revenue. That is 71% of respondents. And we have 66% of respondents looking to increase their staff size, essentially hiring more. And it's obviously important to mention that this is expectation. This is what they look forward to. Definitely. Which can be different from the actual item depending on the circumstances. And a good example is in Q2, in the Q2 report, we observed that majority of businesses similarly were expecting to grow their revenue and their staff size. But then a number of issues came on board, for example, the floods that we had, which affected operations of many businesses, so that then interferes with the expectation that they had. But looking at this report, something that stands out, and I think we should be very conscious of, is that more than 75% of the businesses that participated in this survey actually have an annual turnover of less than 1 million and have employees of less than 10. So that tells you that our economy is really micro. Even as we work together with development partners, with government, private sector, to try and have interventions and efforts to grow our economy, we shouldn't forget that our economy is really, really micro. Yes, we have the big players, but the economy is really micro. Also, this survey goes out to both members and non-members of the chamber, businesses of all sectors, and there's actually the breakdown. We have retail and wholesale sector as the top among the respondents. We have agriculture, manufacturing and processing coming top. So that is the highlight. We also have the challenges, which were captured. We asked businesses, what challenges are you expecting to affect your performance in Q2, in Q3? And they mentioned that limited financial resources was top. And when we probed further, what are the factors within limited financial resources, we could see that high interest rate came top. And you know, that is what currently banks are lending at, some of them at over 20%. And that makes, you know, the cost of credit really high and really discourages businesses from expanding just because of that finance cost. Second challenge that businesses mentioned is unfavorable regulatory environment. And when we've probed further and asked them which factors inside an unfavorable regulatory environment, they mentioned that unfavorable taxes and levies. And this is quite captured with, also consistent with the national conversation currently about taxation just coming off of the finance bill. So businesses are feeling that unfavorable levies and taxes are actually affecting the regulatory environment as a whole. And just to mention on that point, Noah, right now, one of the items that we are addressing at the advocacy desk at the chamber is some of the new fees that are being introduced. Let me give you an example. Last week on Monday, we had a meeting with KFIS, the Kenya Plant Health and Inspectorate. and they are looking to, they're introducing new, they're implementing new phytosanitary services, fees for these services, and for export of produce, and we would see, some of them would see an increase of up to 337% hike in the costs, which is already way higher as it is right now. So the fees are supposed to come in on July 15th, effective. But even as it is right now, it's higher than what Uganda charges. It's higher than what Tanzania charges. We even went ahead and analyzed against the United Kingdom, and it's higher than the United Kingdom. So increasing by 337% obviously is going to affect our cost of production and our competitiveness in the global landscape, because these are exports.
What is KEFIS's explanation or justification behind that?
We had that meeting with KEFIS, and we told them that this will have serious ramification for businesses, but they held the line that they're not receiving money from the exchequer, which is an effect of the finance bill not being passed. And for that reason, that is why they are raising the fees. But they chose to stick to one side of the argument, because we told them, yes, that is your reality, but then, you know, we don't operate in silos. There's another reality here, that if you do this, we're actually going to make Kenyan exports uncompetitive in the global market, and then in turn you're going to reduce the exports volumes. And, you know, the government has a commitment to increase exports, so that is obviously contradicting that. Okay. The third largest challenge that was mentioned was actually instability of supply chain instability. And this is actually, these top three issues that were identified in Q3 were also the top three issues in Q2. And within the instability of the supply chain, we probed further, and one of the items that came top is actually non-tariff barriers. And we've been facing this challenge with across borders, you know, with the movement of goods and services. And currently we have a challenge at the Chamber of Commerce that's actually going on as we speak now.
Yes.
So we export fish from Kenya into DRC through Uganda. And this fish mostly comes from Lake Turkana. It goes through Busia. And at the border point called Mpondwe, this is the border between Uganda and DRC, the Uganda officials are not allowing for these Kenyan products to cross over to DRC as they should and as they have been. And the challenge here is that this is obviously a contravention of the East African Common Market Protocol. We have engaged the Ministry of Trade here. We've engaged even the Ministry of Trade in Uganda, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, even our High Commission in Uganda. But we are yet to get results since May 27th. Our members.
May 27th.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's been more than a month. I've not been able to export. And we export about 150 million worth of fish, Kenya shillings, every week. So you can see also the externalities that are around that to do with jobs. So these non-tariff barriers are affecting businesses a lot, and now leading to the instability of the supply chain.
So there seems to be a level of challenges that the sectors are facing. But also from the reports, there is some optimism despite what is happening.
Correct.
But just going back to the point that you made earlier about Kenya's economy, based on this survey, being very micro, do you think, first of all, even from a policy standpoint, it is a reality that we acknowledge when forming policies and making decisions, to that fact that actually over 75 of our businesses are very, very small, hopefully run by one person or two, less than 10. Correct. Is it a reality that we consider when making decisions?
I'd say no. And I will demonstrate to you why I'm saying no. Let me take the Finance Bill 2024. I know now it's out of the picture, but when the proposal came in, and particularly on the e-teams component, that the penalty for non-compliance with e-teams was going to be 2 million every month, up to 2 million per month. And more than half of the businesses that have been sampled in both the barometers have an annual revenue of less than 1 million. So they don't even make half of the penalty in a year. and you want to institute that as the penalty every month for non-compliance with e-teams, then you might as well take away their business, right? So we gave our comments to the Committee of Finance and National Planning as the voice of the private sector. And we also submitted a copy of the Q2 report. And we made the point to the chair of the Committee of Finance and National Planning that our economy is really micro and these penalties too punitive. So when it went further to the National Assembly where they debated it, what was actually ascended to the president for signing, it had a 500,000, up to 500,000 penalty per month. So that doesn't solve the situation, right? Because you want to charge them a penalty of 500,000, and these businesses per month, and these businesses make less than $1 million in a year. So then you realize that we are not taking into consideration the demography of our businesses and enterprises into the country, in the country.
That is quite sad, because on the flip side, we are talking about major challenges that the economy faces, huge unemployment rates. When I hear the president speaks, most of the times is in reference to jobs abroad. I don't know how about creating jobs here, but just looking at that reality of huge unemployment rates within the country and what is supposed to absorb, because the public sector is not absorbing.
Correct.
And that is a fact. It has a huge limitation to it. It's the private sector. And the private sector, again, is dominated by micro businesses. There must be an approach that we can solve this. Talk to me. Maybe is manufacturing and changing policies around that one of the major ways that we can sort of spur mass employment of Kenyans in Kenya?
Absolutely. And just allow me to mention one component in the report. So I mentioned earlier that one of the components that we do measure is the primary cost of production, the primary cost of inputs, which is essentially raw materials. So compared to Q2, it's actually encouraging to report that more businesses, and now majority of the businesses, are actually expecting a drop in the primary cost of inputs. However, if you juxtapose this against the sectors, manufacturing is the least optimistic when it comes to a drop in the cost of inputs. Now, manufacturing as a sector, right now it contributes about 7% to our GDP. But then, even though it contributes only 7% of our GDP, it is the highest wage employer in the private sector. So that tells you that manufacturing is labor heavy and is actually one of the accelerators of employment. So this shows you that, one, manufacturers are pessimistic about drop in the cost of inputs. So there's need for more interventions to support manufacturing and the cost of raw materials.
Yes.
So that we are able, so that by doing that and supporting manufacturing, we are solving the unemployment problem. Okay. And the government has to be, there is a mismatch between the aspiration and the action. For example, again in the finance bill, the proposal was to increase the import declaration fee. And our proposal to government was that, why don't we lower the import declaration fee for raw materials? Because if someone is bringing in raw materials and they want to process it, they want to manufacture it, then you are essentially supporting manufacturing, right? But what was passed at the parliament, which obviously did not make it into law, actually proposed to just increase blanket the import declaration fee. So there's need for intentionality by the government to support manufacturing, because it's a key sector for employment.
Definitely. Kigen, our time is up. In closing, in less than 30 seconds, looking at the way the businesses have responded, looking at the macroeconomics that this country is facing. Of course, inflation has come within manageable range. As it's normally pointed out, inflation, we are good. The shilling is doing good. There seems to be a certain optimism in that regard. And now finance bill, and now Gen Z's You know, all these factors, from the point of view of your members as KNCCI, are we going to have a great year ahead, or it's time to tighten our belts?
No, just before I quickly go into that, one quick component that we also measured is this time we measured climate change. So we asked businesses if they're intentionally applying any climate mitigation and adaptation measures in their business. It's actually good to report that 69% of businesses are intentionally applying climate mitigation and adaptation measures. Mining and energy sectors are leading, but where retail and wholesale sectors are still behind when it comes to application of climate mitigation and adaptation actions. What I have to say, Noah, is, in closing, we are at a pivotal moment as a country. And the government has to make a choice now. And they have demonstrated that they have a listening ear. I'd say that is not enough. For the private sector, yes, we need them to have a listening ear, but we also need them to have action in hands. So that they don't just listen, we don't just talk, but we actually put action. And they know what the challenges of this country is. In fact, today we were with the PS of Investment and Promotion, Honorable Abubakar. We gave him the report, we showed him the challenges that businesses are having, and we told them, kazi kwako. So now the government has to put more intention, not just listen, but now action.
Definitely. More action and less talk. Thank you very much. Kiplimo Kigan is the head of policy research and advocacy at the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
All right. All right. There you have it. Conversation on matters businesses and their outlook in regards to how they view Q3 is going to look like, and quite a major case of concerns when it comes to some of the key players and some of the key tenants. That has to do with employment, issues to do with cost of input, whereas there is an optimistic outlook right there. There's still some concerns, but there is matters to do with this particular barometer. You better grab it for yourself and dig even deeper into it. But that's where we put a full stop to business today. Thank you very much for joining with us over the past, over the past 15 minutes or so. Up next, you have the KTN. Stay tuned. I'm Noki Kimboy. We're out.